And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Flying weather for Tuesday morning, showing good VFR here. Again, eastern Bering Sea, including the Pribilofs down across Alaska Peninsula, much of the interior here, but IFR sliding right up into south central Alaska, Kenai Peninsula here, and western Prince William Sound, VFR, North Gulf Coast, Copper River Basin, and then just a little bit IFR there for the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline. And IFR, narrow band here right up toward Port Alexander. Otherwise, areas of marginal VFR and areas of VFR for the southeast coast. And for the afternoon, IFR increases here and shifts northward over the southeast coast and extends all along the North Gulf Coast now, Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula, right up to the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range. But Susitna Valley, Copper River Basin, and the remainder of mainland Alaska, all VFR, Kodiak Island VFR, eastern Southeast Bering Sea, Bristol Bay VFR, and the Aleutians marginal VFR. For the day on Wednesday, or for Wednesday morning, marginal VFR for the Aleutians, as well as the Pribilof Islands, and now extending northward there to just close to St. Lawrence Island. Still VFR here off along the coast and inland, especially through the central interior. Not too bad for the North Slope there and Arctic coast, mostly VFR up in that area. Areas of marginal VFR here, south central Alaska, North Gulf Coast, as well as the southeast coast. And then for the afternoon, we'll see this area of IFR lifts up into the Panhandle. So that'll be increasing from south to north throughout the day on Wednesday and Wednesday afternoon, with still some IFR up into Prince William Sound. Then we have a zone of marginal VFR here along the Yukon River down in toward Denali Park in the northern Kuskokwim Valley there, but staying VFR out to the west and the north there, Norton Sound and Nome, Seward Peninsula there, good conditions flying wise, and here for the along the coast as well, marginal VFR for the Aleutians and a big portion of the Bering Sea. And for passes, Anatuvik and Atigun, looking really good tomorrow. VFR flying through both those passes of the Brooks Range. Western Alaska Range, marginal VFR to IFR at the lowest conditions. IFR probably would be on the eastern entrances, better to the west. Rainy, VFR to marginal VFR conditions. And for windy, looks VFR, as well as Isabel VFR, Mentasta VFR, Tanita marginal VFR, Portage IFR, Chilkoot and White, VFR to start, IFR to finish. And for the freezing levels, not much to look at here at the surface, about the same place it's been for the last several days here in the North Gulf Coast, or just south of the North Gulf Coast, 2,000 feet there, southern Dixon entrance. And the surface here over the central Aleutians, so coming down a little bit out in this area here, staying well south of the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula. Icing mostly staying to the south of the Aleutian chain with a disturbance passing eastward here, keeping the heavier stuff south of the Fox Islands. A little bit showing up there west of Shimianat too. And then areas of moderate rime icing or considerable moderate rime icing here along the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound into Cook Inlet, extending over the northern and eastern part of the southeast coast. And looking at the jet stream, strongest winds at 32,000 feet here, well to the south here over the northeast Pacific and south of the entire area, leaving light wind flow at this elevation from the Bering Sea into northwest Canada. And for 9,000 feet, southeast 25 over the Tanana Valley, and about 45 knots though into the North Gulf Coast, 35 here northern Panhandle, and then northeast winds 30 to 35 knots there across the Bering Sea to the central Aleutians. And at 3,000 feet, northeast winds, kind of a broad area of northwest winds at 30 to 40 knots, or I should say northeast winds turn easterly up to 40 knots there toward the Aleutians. Southwest 35 knots, pick up to 50 knots there along the North Gulf Coast, and about 30 knots into the coastal areas of the Panhandle. And at looking at turbulence here, considerable moderate turbulence for the North Gulf Coast into Prince William Sound, with light to isolated moderate from the Susitna Valley down to Kodiak Island, as well as a big area here of light to isolated moderate turbulence there from Kotzebue Sound, the northwest coast, all the way down into the Aleutians. Maybe moderate turbulence there for Adak and Atka.